Imagine this. A quiet street in America, tree-lined, two-car garages, normal-looking homes. You pass one house that doesn't stand out, no gate, no luxury SUV, no look-at-me energy, just normal. And inside, someone is sitting at the kitchen table, not flexing, not chasing attention. They're looking at numbers, calmly, like it's no big deal. They drive a used car, they wear simple clothes, they don't talk about money. But their net worth quietly crossed $1 million. And you would never guess, because the biggest lie about wealth is the way it looks. Today we're going to unpack the core ideas of the millionaire next door. Not with hype, not with unrealistic promises, just clear patterns, real habits, and a shift that can change how you see money. Quick note, this is educational storytelling, not financial advice. Just ideas you can think with. All right, let's begin. Most of us grew up with a picture of wealth, a huge house and a new car, designer everything, restaurants where nobody looks at the prices, and we learn a simple equation. More stuff equals more wealth. But the authors of this book, Thomas J. Stanley and William D. Danko, did something that cuts through the noise. They didn't ask, who looks rich? They asked, who is rich? They studied real households with high net worth. They compared income to net worth. They looked for patterns in lifestyle, spending, and decision-making. And what they found was uncomfortable and freeing. A lot of people who look rich aren't, and a lot of people who are rich don't look like it. Here's the idea that changes everything. Wealth is what you don't see. It's the money that didn't become a payment. It's the income that didn't get eaten by lifestyle inflation. It's the margin, the breathing room, the quiet reserve you built while nobody was clapping. That's why the millionaire next door is so easy to miss. They don't perform success. They build it. Now, slow down, because this next distinction is the foundation of the whole book. Income is not wealth. Income is how much you make. Wealth is what you keep. Income is a stream. Wealth is a reservoir. You can have a huge stream and a tiny reservoir if everything flows right back out. And you can have a normal stream and a growing reservoir if you consistently hold back a portion and build assets over time. The book is basically saying, you don't build wealth by earning. You build wealth by not spending everything you earn. And that sounds obvious. But it's not how most people live, because most people live on a different rule. When income rises, spending rises too, automatically. Not because they planned it, because the world encourages it, because the culture rewards it, because it feels good, because it's easier to buy a new identity than to build a new habit, and that's the trap. Because when spending rises with income, your reservoir stays small. Here's a lens from the book that makes this incredibly clear. Two kinds of people. One type builds real wealth consistently. The other type might earn a lot, but builds far less wealth than you'd expect. The book calls them accumulators and underaccumulators. But you can picture them without labels. Person A gets a raise, and their lifestyle barely changes. They invest the difference. They add margin. Person B gets a raise, and within months their life expands. A nicer apartment, a newer car, more spending, more subscriptions, more, I deserve this. One person turns raises into freedom. The other turns raises into obligations. And what makes this psychologically tricky is, person B often looks more successful. Better clothes, better car, better neighborhood, more visible proof. But person A often has more control, less stress, more reserves, more choice. So the real question is not, how successful do you look? It's, how free are you? Because freedom is the real luxury. Let's make this vivid. Imagine a dealership, bright lights, perfect paint, that new car smell. A salesperson smiles and asks, what monthly payment are you comfortable with? And right there is a quiet trap. When you think in monthly payments, you stop thinking in total cost. You stop thinking about what that money could become. You stop thinking about opportunity cost. The millionaire next door mindset asks a different question. What does this purchase cost me in future freedom? Not in a dramatic way, not in a fearful way, in a calm, adult way, because every dollar you spend is not only a dollar gone. It's a dollar that can't become an asset, a dollar that can't compound, a dollar that can't buy you options later. And when you start thinking like that, spending becomes slower, more intentional, not because you're miserable, because you're awake. Now we arrive at one of the book's biggest villains, lifestyle inflation. Lifestyle inflation is what happens when your income rises and your spending rises with it, without you noticing. It's quiet. You don't say, "I'm going to become a high-spending person." It happens gradually. A nicer phone, a new couch, more delivery, more small treats, a new car lease that feels manageable, a bigger place that feels deserved, and each upgrade is rational. Until one day you look up and realize your life requires a high income just to breathe. That's not wealth. That's dependence. Real wealth reduces dependence. It buys you margin. And margin does something powerful. It makes you calmer. It makes you less desperate. It makes you harder to manipulate. Because when your life isn't built on payments, you can walk away from bad deals, from toxic environments, from choices that don't fit your values. That's the real payoff. Now let's talk about the symbol Americans love most, the big house. A home can be a blessing, a safe base, a family anchor, but a house can also become a financial predator. Because the cost is never just the mortgage. It's property taxes, insurance, maintenance, furniture, repairs, upgrades, landscaping, utilities. And then the invisible cost. The psychological pressure to match the house. You buy a bigger place, and now your spending has gravity. It pulls upward. You start thinking, we need nicer furniture. We need better appliances. We need to host. We need to keep up. And if you bought near your maximum, there's no breathing room, no margin. And without margin, wealth can't compound. That's why many real wealth builders choose a home that is below their maximum. Not tiny, not miserable, just reasonable. Because reasonable creates breathing room. And breathing room is where wealth grows. The book uses a phrase that hits hard. Big hat, no cattle. It's the idea of someone who looks like a wealthy rancher but owns no ranch, just the image. Luxury goods can do that. They can create the appearance of wealth, while wealth is quietly being drained behind the scenes. So the millionaire next door often asks, sometimes without realizing it, one simple question. Am I buying this for function or for status? Function can be wise. Function can be worth paying for. Status is different. Status is a bottomless pit. Because it's never satisfied. There is always a higher tier, a newer version, a better brand, a more impressive signal. And when you build your identity on signals, your spending will never rest. But wealth needs rest. Wealth needs patience. Wealth needs time. Now let's talk about cars, because the book talks about cars a lot, and there's a reason. Cars are one of the most common wealth killers in America. A car is not only a purchase, it's depreciation, it's insurance, maintenance, repairs, and often constant upgrading. Many people treat cars like identity, a reward, a statement, a way to feel ahead. But many millionaires next door treat cars like tools, transportation, reliability, practicality. They may buy used. They keep cars longer. They avoid turning their driveway into a monthly payment museum. This isn't about never enjoying life. It's about refusing to let nice become a permanent obligation. Because a lot of people don't realize, when you lock yourself into big monthly payments, you lose flexibility. And flexibility is priceless. Here's a moment many people will recognize. You check your bank account and think, I make decent money, so why do I still feel tight? And the answer is usually not one big mistake. It's 1,000 small leaks, subscriptions you forgot, eating out that became default, delivery that became routine, upgrades that felt small but stacked. The millionaire next door doesn't have fewer temptations. They just have stronger friction. They pause, they compare, they delay, they decide. They don't let money leave the account without awareness, and that awareness adds up, not in a week, but over years. Now let's talk about something the book emphasizes through its patterns: ownership. Many millionaires don't get there through salary alone. They build equity, they own a business, they own investments, they own assets that grow. This doesn't mean everyone needs to start a business. It means wealth often comes from building things that can grow beyond hourly labor. Assets are powerful because they can work while you sleep, not in a magical way, in a patient way. And that patience is a theme in every real wealth story. Because wealth is not usually a moment, it's momentum. Family dynamics matter too. The authors discuss patterns where some parents give ongoing financial support to adult children, paying for lifestyles, covering bills, repeated rescue. It's often done out of love. But it can carry a hidden cost. It can delay financial independence. It can reduce the need to build discipline. It can encourage consumption without capability. The deeper point is not, don't help. The deeper point is, be careful what kind of help you give, because money without habits disappears. But habits create money. So one of the best gifts isn't funding spending. It's teaching capability, how to budget, how to save, how to delay gratification, how to think in long time horizons. That's a different kind of inheritance, a behavioral inheritance, and it lasts. High income can also create an illusion of safety. As long as money is flowing in, you feel okay. But if the lifestyle requires that income forever, you're not safe. You're dependent, and the world changes. Industries shift, jobs change, and health changes, markets swing. The Millionaire Next Door builds resilience. They don't build a life that collapses if one paycheck disappears. They build buffers, lower fixed costs, less debt, emergency reserves, margin. That's not fear, that's wisdom. Now let's condense the entire message into a few calm principles, without turning it into a numbered list. Start here. Spend less than you earn, consistently, not once, as a system. Keep clarity. Know where your money goes. Because what you don't measure expands. Protect flexibility. Avoid turning status into a monthly payment. Keep fixed costs under control. Buy with intention. Choose practical over impressive. Choose value over signals. Build assets steadily. Invest consistently. Reinvest when you can. Let time do the heavy lifting. Guard your margin. Margin in your budget. Margin in your schedule. Margin in your decisions. Because margin is where compounding lives. And keep your timeline long. This book isn't about a shortcut. It's about consistency that lasts. And this is the part many people don't want to hear. Real wealth building is often boring on purpose. It's not dramatic. It's not a viral moment. It's the same quiet decisions repeated longer than other people can tolerate. Keeping the car longer, choosing the smaller payment, skipping the impulse upgrade, investing steadily, staying disciplined even when nobody sees it. And that's why it works. Because most people can't stay consistent when the reward is delayed. But the reward is not only money. The reward is control. The reward is breathing room. The reward is waking up and realizing you're not trapped. All right, let's bring this home. If you remember just one idea from this book, let it be this. Wealth isn't what you buy. It's what you keep. It's what you build quietly, while nobody's watching. The Millionaire Next Door isn't rare. It's a set of choices. Choosing margin over pressure. Choosing patience over impulse. Choosing assets over appearances. And the best part is, you don't need to look rich to build real wealth. You just need a plan you can stick to, and the discipline to repeat it long enough for it to work. Now I'm curious, in the comments, tell me this. What's one habit you're willing to change after hearing this? A spending habit, a debt habit, or the way you define success? If you found this breakdown helpful, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who thinks wealth has to be loud. Because sometimes, the strongest financial life is the quietest one. See you in the next one.